Good morning. Good morning, everybody. All right, let's get rid of this here. So, how's it going? I wanted to, I've had a couple of people ask me, you didn't go live Monday or Tuesday. Well, I did Monday, but it was like in the middle of, it was middle of the morning, I guess. Worry about that later. Anyways, it's a snowy, wonderful day. If you're going up, well, we'll just show you. If you're going up 55, 44, 44 Missouri, 55, 57, all the way up to say Detroitish. You're in for a good ride. And let's see, let's change that. And there we go. Yeah, but I don't know. I think we got about 8 inches here. That's what she said. Let's see. Let's get the weather up here, and I'll kind of show you guys. We're still under a storm warning, but I think the snow has stopped. It took a couple of our branches down. Anyways, let's share the screen here, and then we'll get the shout outs, and then we're going to talk about something that, no, let's do the weather first here. So if you're, so this pink was all the way up 44. So luckily it's a little bit warmer, so it's not sticking as much. So I don't think the roads are too bad. But this is, so I guess that'd be 70. 70 up to 75, I think is what's going to be affected. But anyways, something to be aware of. And then all this is jacked up, all the Northeast, through Maine and all that. So New York, of course. But so if you're up in this area, it's going to be hairy for a minute, but not too long. It's not like it's going to be. The worst part is when you have like all the snow and then the cold temps on top of that, where it doesn't melt, doesn't scrape off the road easily, that kind of thing. And then, of course, it's windy through here. So if you're light, that could be an issue. And I guess there was a lot of trucks turned over around Houston-ish, with all the tornadic weather that's going on down here against the Gulf. So something to be aware of. Just take your time, keep an eye on the weather, and don't get too much of a hurry. So anyways, let's do some shout outs and see what comes up. Stuart, what's up, man? Stuart, the hobby trucker. That's going around, isn't it? Being a hobby trucker. My truck is, I love my Kenworth dealership, kind of, but they're horrible about telling me when my truck's done. And they're supposed to be taking it down to the APU place for me. And I don't know if they've done that. So I figure I'll give them a call tomorrow if I don't hear from them. I try not to be pushy with them. Unless I really need the truck. Obviously, I'm not in a hurry for the truck. So, and it's so far it's looking to be pretty expensive, in relation to the fact that I haven't ran the truck for a while. So that video will be coming out when that bill comes in, because I want people to know, if they're thinking about buying a truck, I want people to know what it really costs to run one before you make that decision. CDN, good morning. I received your packages yesterday, and I watched your video, CDN, and we will have a discussion today. I believe your audio is a lot better. So, and yes, the video you played for me will bring up some live feed discussions. Maybe one of the Saturday night or nighttime discussions, I think, would be great. I can't go too deep into anything today other than what I want to warn everybody about. And CDN, your input on this might be good too, because I've got a couple of trucks I got to deal with today. So they'll be empty here soon, later this week, and I want to make sure you got to be a step ahead right now, people. So, Mr. Charles, good morning. My name is Nobody. Good morning. Sick Semper Tyrannus. Hello. Kettle hauling. SST, that reminds me. So Jeff was live last night. I missed it. I got in there in the tail end of it and was watching the live replay, and I noticed that Jeff's Nightbot. I don't know how it's set up. I don't even know how to set up Nightbot. I don't think it's hard. I just haven't taken the time to look at it. And anyways, his Nightbot kind of gives people crap for doing the emoji thing. And it's kind of funny because Nightbot doesn't have a wrench on his channel, so people were timing it out. It was pretty funny. Desert Okie Pam, good morning. Mike Nine Toes. Snowmageddon here, at least that's what they tell us. Greg Zimmer, good morning. Greg's got a fun ride for, well, starting today. So be careful, Greg. India's white, been death grip all morning. Wow. 4JS Transport, Snorelord is like freshly brewed coffee. I finished up one bag of the Black Rifle stuff I bought over Christmas, and so this is a nice cherished cup. So, but I appreciate that AJS or 4JS, sorry. Good morning from Lovelock, Nevada. Good deal, Sterling. It's going to be a long day, Kansas City to Fond du Lac. Maybe you should go up through Iowa. You might do that. Sean, Big Rig Show has endorsed rap music. Yeah, I'm going to have to start questioning our friendship because we can't be having no rap music. I missed that video. He told me that he did that, and I'll probably go in and listen to it. He's got some really good insight for an area that a lot of people struggle with on the power only deal. And Sean, you can relate to this. At Schneider, you had to have, and Landstar too, when dealing with the trailer pool, you have to know tricks of the trade. You have to know how to manipulate and capitalize. Schneider has these rules that you can't take a trailer home if it's empty, and all this. And so I would always book a load before I went home. Like, so I go home on Friday. I would have Monday's load booked simply so I can keep my trailer. And when it comes to trailer searches, you really had to you had to have some tricks, right? You had to, I was pretty good about manipulating box movement to minimize, the 100-mile trailer searches, because it can get pretty, and I always tried to stay in the areas where the trailer pool wouldn't be too hard to deal with, because I heard stories all the time of drivers doing like 100-mile to go get a trailer out of route and find out there's no trailer there. And then the next one's 50. And the next thing you know, yeah, they're paying you for those empty miles after 50 miles, but it still takes time. So if the load was tight, adding 100 miles for a trailer search it made it more difficult. And so you have to have this certain skill set to really be able to navigate through all that. And so in Landstar, you never wanted to give up a trailer. You never wanted to drop a trailer and not be able to get another one. And some of the agents would get kind of tricky. Oh yeah, there's an empty there. Oh, we'll have an empty for you tomorrow. And then they don't, and then you're screwed. Because Landstar doesn't handle its trailer pool the same way Schneider does. And that was one of the disadvantages of being at Landstar, was sometimes that not having a trailer could cost you 2 or 3 or 4 days. So, which was kind of silly, because I know people that left Landstar and they had to like call Landstar to beg them to come pick up their trailer. So it's, you got to know someone to know someone. You've got to know the system, and so Big Rig CEO is taking those same skills and putting it in the spot market, and it's working for him. So, trucking with T-Bone. Good morning. SRO Logistics. Hey, stranger. Yeah, give me a call today. Got some info for you. Hot seat. Good morning from Staycation. There you go. It's kind of fun to troll Jeff's Nightbot. It is. Pumpkin really just power only. Yeah. The trailer pull has been brutal here last few months. Yeah. Well, between equipment changes and freight changes, and they've probably lost a customer or two, and they've probably gained a customer or two. It's all jacked up. Snorelord, Metalhead, Weatherman Trucker. Hey, what's up, everybody? Jackknife, what's up? Just to give everyone a heads up, you're no longer allowed to park at Virginia way stations. I'm sure if you think hard enough, you'll figure out why. I think the only way stations I parked at, the ones in Chicagoland I did, they're in Bolingbrook. I did that one, but it was closed, but they still allowed you to park. And then I think Kentucky, a couple of those. But I tend not to. I'm not the guy that avoided way stations. I'm not. I'm pretty confident when I pull up to one. Now that could bite me in the butt. I know that can bite you in the butt when you are trying to get an inspection for the brokers, and so you pull up to a way station, then they ream you on a bunch of things that you weren't aware of, or that you thought was good, but grumpy DOT guy says it wasn't. So, but I try not to stay at them. So, but that's good to know. Shannon, good morning. Are you up in Jersey? Because if you are, you're in for a good time. Let's see. Snorelord, pour me 2 cups of coffee. I'm going to need it. Yeah, right. Wheelburner, good morning. I appeared on Wheelburner's live feed Saturday night. Have you guys noticed I haven't gone live on a Saturday night in a while? And that's because it seems to be a hot spot for a lot of people, including Wheelburner. So, you know what? And here lately, I have been in the mood to do the Saturday night live feeds. But I had fun. I had fun. I would rather get on someone else's feed and kind of let loose a little bit than my own on Saturday, maybe. So. But soon he will be on the ice roads, and I will have my Saturdays back. But Wheelburner, I appreciate you. I hope you watch the videos that I sent you. Wheelburner says, T-Bone, wait for someone to come unload this paper. Good luck. He was eating cap. No, I think it was ice cream. So even worse, right? I'm in Seguin, Texas, hoping to deliver this load today instead of. Oh, okay. I thought you were going up to Jersey. Well, the power of going in there and saying either pretty please or I didn't know. My dispatcher said I delivered today. Always blame the dispatcher. And if you're self-dispatch, you ain't lying, right? So, good morning, everyone. My Northwest Ohio is getting hit with the snow. Yep. Cheap Freight Hauler. What a great name. Good morning, everyone. All right, so Kaislin says it's snowing like crazy on the PA Ohio line. I bet you it is. It's going nuts in the whole area. So just be weather aware. So one of the things I want to talk about as I try to find my board here is Monday. I had to do a last minute booking because of a truck issue out of Phoenix, which was rough. And a disturbing trend I didn't like. And I want you guys to bear with me. Anybody who's been in the spot game for a while, either as a dispatch or, as a driver dispatching yourself, you pretty much see the same brokers, right? You see, every now and then you see a new one. But for the most part, out of 100 loads, you're going to see the same, 20, 30 brokers, names that you're familiar with. Whether you work with them or not is irrelevant. You just see the same ones. And now, what I've noticed is if I go to a new area that I'm not used to, I see a new set of brokers. So now I'm looking up, if I'm dispatching, well, if I dispatch for anybody, I'm checking their credit, right? I don't go by the little check mark on the DAT if I'm using that. And I will type in their MC number, take a look, because sometimes their credit will be quote unquote good, but they might be at 60 days pay. And some of the outside carriers that I dispatch may not want that. So, but I check everything through Thunder Funding's website, and it gives me a whole report. So I find that days when I'm in an area I'm not used to, I'm looking up a bunch of brokers, and I'm looking, type in their MC number, see what pops up. And what I started to notice out west was that I was finding brokers that didn't have any kind of credit score on DAT. Like, they don't even have it listed. No check mark, no nothing. And then same thing with underfunding. And I don't even see a lot of those brokers on 123 low board. So I go to check out their MC number and nothing pops up, or it's red, which means denied. And then some of them didn't, some don't have credit history, some don't even show up, because they're not in the database yet. That's how new they are. But when I have 4 or 5 in an area in a row that's denied, that's a trend that things that make you go, right? And I got a phone call from a friend that was like, "Hey, here, look what happened to us." And he talked about, they booked a load, driver went to go pick it up, and they're like, "That load doesn't even exist." And the broker was extremely hard to get a hold of. And there were some shenanigans going on. And then it happened to him a second time. And one of the brokers that had done that to this driver carrier, I checked out their credit, and it's just no records found. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have booked that, because I want to book something that's established, right? I'm not talking you got to stick with TQL, CH Robinson, and all that. I'm not saying that, because some of the mom and pop brokers can be a good thing. In fact, I'm working with one right now on one of my trucks. However, you got to keep an eye out for shenanigans. You got to keep an eye out for some of the scams that are going on. And just like if you see a major broker post a load and it says email only, and it gives you an email address that's a Gmail or Hotmail or Outlook, yeah, don't mess with that. And if it's like, well, sometimes brokers will use their outside email to try to book stuff on it, overnight, blah, 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 blah. But do you know that, right? So are you going to take that risk, especially on something that's like paying 5, 6, 7 grand to go across country? So I was telling this story to another friend of mine, and so he looked, and he was seeing the same thing, and he was looking in a different area and seeing the same thing. So I was seeing it out of Phoenix, we were seeing it out of Seattle, and the other friend, and I keep names, because maybe people don't want their names out there on these conversations, and he was seeing the same trends. And so what I find is that I notice things, and then later on people are, wow, I'm seeing the same thing. Wow, I'm having the same results. Wow, I'm kind of, and so I know that it's not just me. I know it's not just something stupid. And so if you're booking your own freight, definitely buyer beware on which brokers you're using, have a great system in place to check the credit and their history, and have just be aware of that. Just be aware, because there's a lot of shenanigans going on. The other thing is that now the mega brokers tend to have some low, or are having some lower counts. So the volume, so I don't think we've hit bottom just yet, or this is the bottom. We're now dwelling in the drudges of the pit. So I checked a mega broker out of Dallas, Texas yesterday. They had 3 loads within a 100-mile radius for Thursday. Now, why is that important? Well, just go outside of your, normal broker zone. Well, here's why that's important. Because if every mega broker only has 2 or 3 loads out of a major metropolitan such as Dallas, that means they are going to keep rates as low as possible. Remember 2020, early part of 2020 during the shutdowns? It's exactly why they try to keep as much money as they can. Because it's just like the trucks, right? If Peterbilt only has 5 trucks to sell, and there's a huge demand for them, guess what? They're going to jack up the prices because they know they weren't going to be able to sell 20 that month. So supply and demand. So just be aware of that. So 2 things that I'm being cautious with, that I'm paying attention to, and that could create some hardships for some of you if you don't make some adjustments. And if you have a broker relationship, sometimes a good strategy is this. You call your call a broker that you've been working with. Let's say Axle Logistics, right? You go, hey, keep me in the best money making areas. Connect me with loads. Don't just book me a load to one direction and can't get me out of there. Let's see if we can link some stuff together. And a good broker will be able to do that. If you have a good relationship with a good broker that's got a lot of freight on his or her desk, what you can do is you're like, okay, so how do you keep me moving for the next week? Like, well, we got this that goes to here. We can do that for this. And then out of there, you can do this. And then out of there, you do this. And you just got to do your research, know your lanes, know the value. So they're not trying to lowball you. And you can pretty much book your whole week. I had a broker when I first started in the spot market that my friend Harold introduced me to. And that was the strategy that he and I were using. One phone call could book your whole week. And so that's going to be incredibly important for the next 4 weeks, because I predict that this bottom is going to be for the next 4 weeks. Now, some people are saying it's going to be the rest of the year. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I've been wrong before. And I try to be partially optimistic. But the other thing that I noticed, and 2 or 3 other friends have told me the same thing, is that all those emails that I was getting, hey, do you have a truck? Hey, do you have a truck? Hey, do you have a truck? Hey, let's book your next 2 loads. They stopped. I did not get any of those emails this week. Well, I lie. So there's 2 that send me email every morning without fail. But beyond that, the out of normal ones, I haven't seen that. So it's hunker down time. It's time to get beyond your box It's time to start learning the rest of the country if you're running just one lane or two, because eventually your lane, if it's a good lane, is going to dry up when everybody figures it out. And so you know, I have a strategy when I Phoenix. I have a strategy when I come out of Florida. I have a strategy when I come out of Jersey. And it takes time, patience, and experience to develop the skill set to be able to learn the skill set to deal with certain areas certain ways. Because sometimes you'll be thrown in an area not by choice. You know, I didn't choose to have a truck in Phoenix, but that's where the guy lives. And so I have to create a strategy to go in and out of Phoenix. Going into Phoenix is no problem. Coming out, you know, that's when we try to search the good old boy network and see what we can find that doesn't hit the low boards. Same thing with the Pacific Northwest. There's a strategy there, and being aware of what freight moves at one time. Here in about a month, a lot of grass seed's going to come out of the Pacific Northwest. A lot of grass seed comes out of Montana, the Dakotas, but that's not for a while. And so just knowing these things, and it takes experience to figure that out. You know, I've talked to drivers that have been driving for 10 years that have never been west of the Mississippi. And so when they enter the spot market and need freight, they don't know what they're getting into. They don't know what Dallas is like. They don't know what Houston's like. They don't know what New Mexico's like. So that's part of this game that we deal with here. And eventually, you know, as I show this density map, you know, what do you do if this is presented to you? What do you do if you see this? What do you do? Do you have a plan? And just know, look, and just know that whatever we're dealing with now is temporary. Whether it's a good market or bad market, that's what you have to get in your head, is that this is a temporary situation. That's why it's tough for me to stomach that someone would do a truck note for 7 years not 100% sure of their platform. You know, I put a 5-year note on my trailer, which kept the payments pretty low. And my payments are $625 a month. I've been able to manage that even without driving because it's a manageable payment. But in the last 5 years, there's been so many different changes just in the spot market alone. I've been in the spot market for, well, 5 years now. I bought the trailer in February. Now I did the deferment during the shutdowns for 3 months. So now March, so now the trailer won't be paid off till May unless I decide to pay it off early. But February is the anniversary of when I bought that trailer. So I've been in the spot market for 5 years. But I'm also familiar with the spot market from my Landstar days. And I know for a fact that this is always changing. And that's something to keep in mind. Because one day you might wake up and that's what that looks like. What do you do? So, anyways, this is for animal carrier. That's why it's all red. All right. Let's go with something with a little bit more popular. There's Van. I'm seeing like $1.10, $1.20 asking rate coming out of California. Now, one of the things you have to understand is if you're doing long miles like this load here, Carson, California to Slingerlands, New York. Never heard of that. Obviously, it's see where that is. Around Albany. They're asking $1.95. They're above the average for 123. True team. In other words, this load has to go. And so if I'm on the West Coast, that's what I'm looking for is team runs. Because what I'm finding is that they're trying to drive the price down so low for as long as they possibly can that eventually what happens is they finally find a truck to do it, and then that truck fails to go pick it up. And now it has to be a team load. I had a load booked out of Munster, Indiana, load of lunch meat, and it was picking up at like 6 p.m. And so we booked it, got a good rate for it. And this shipper's known for taking a minute, so I had to make sure that there was some cushion because it was going to a Walmart in Arkansas. And a couple hours later, I get a new rate con. It says, "Hey, are you willing to do this?" But it doesn't pick up till 9 p.m. So I'm looking at the time. I called the driver, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so we went ahead and I signed that rate con. And then the next morning, and this was a few days out. The next morning, he calls me up. He's like, "Yeah, I just got to give you a Tonu. Hey, by the way, do you have a team? Because they just don't know when this load's going to be ready. So a team could do it. Do you have a team?" I'm like, "No." And so that's a lot of that's going on, and that's probably where you see a load like this, Carson to New York. But see, look at this one. So let's go back to this New York load. How many miles is that? That's 2826. And then this load is paying only $1.48 a mile going to Florida. 45,000 pounds, so it ain't a partial. Now, would I still call on this? Yeah, because I want to call on this if my truck wants to get out to California, but it's 2,300 miles, so less miles than New York, but let's do the math on that. So let's go to the rate per day since that rate per mile sucks. So ideally you want to dispatch yourself at 55 miles an hour. Most people say 50, depends on the terrain. But you got to average out your miles per day by 55 because you've got traffic, especially if you're going through a lot of major cities. Now, I'm not talking if you're going from Lincoln, Nebraska to Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm not talking yeah, it's easy to do 700 miles in those days on those trips. I'm talking like from, and that's something to consider because, I-20 is not too bad. You're going to deal with Houston. You're going to deal with, are you dealing with Houston? I don't know. It's been a minute. I mean, really, San Antonio is a major city. Then once you get around Louisiana and all that, then it kind of can slow down. But let's do the miles. So 2377 divided by 55 miles an hour. It's 43 hours. That's over half your week on your hours of service, just in drive time. If you average 60, 2377 divided by 60 miles an hour because, we're out west, right? That's 39. That doesn't, only shaves a few hours off. So realistically, after throwing your pre-trip and post-trip and fuel and all that, you're realistically going to be between 40 and 43 hours on this run. Now, people are like, well, I drive 75 through those states. Okay, great. So let's do that. 2377 divided by 75 because we're Billy Badass. That's 31 hours. But then where's your fuel mileage at? Right? Where's your fuel mileage? So realistically, you want to budget 40 hours. Now, if you're only making 35.25, so if you take that 20, so let's back up. So let's say you're able to pull off 600 miles a day. So 2377 divided by 600, that's 3.96. So 4 days. 4 days transit. 35.25 divided by 4, that comes out to $881 a day. 881 and change. So let's go back to that New York load. And that's providing that you can't negotiate a higher rate, and that's your only choice, right? Let's see where this New York load. Let's take a look at that. So the mileage on this one is 28.26. So 5,500 divided by let's do this. 28.26 divided by 600 miles a day, which that's going to be hard once you get east of Mississippi, but let's say again, you're Billy Badass. That's about a 5-day trip. That's going to take so if you do 5,500 divided by 5, that's $1,100 a day. That's how you look at that. Gross before your carrier's cut. If you're, if you've got your own authority, that all goes to you. But and that's what I like. It has the driving time on there, 49:30, right? So, but that's the majority of your week. So, you look at New York and say, okay, can I make, if let's say your goal is $1,000 a day, can I do that up there in New York? But so I mean, there's a whole game to this. There's a whole process to this, and these are the things that I look at when a truck hires me to. I need to stay within these parameters. And so when there's plenty of loads, it's easier to stay within the parameters. But when there's not, then you have to okay, so what can I do now? For example, if you're struggling to get out of somewhere and the deadhead is just too much because the profit from the last load wasn't that as well as it could have been, well then I go into this mode where I do a light load and the daily rate's good. Right? So it still goes above the cost of the truck. So when you combine the two loads together, you're good. And sometimes you got to combine 3 or 4 just to make things work, mathematically. And at the end of the month, you'll find that maybe you were only in the hole $100 or you're in the hole over $200. We're too focused on each load. I try to come up with strategies that look long term. Even if you're in a place like Phoenix or Salt Lake or Seattle. And so I pay attention to the charts. I pay attention to load volumes. And when I find that if load volumes are super high in one area, they ain't going to pay you squat to go in there. So what I like to do is I try to find the best paying loads out of a dead spot so I can utilize them when it comes time to make the money going into the dead spot. And that's a challenge, especially when freight volumes are down quite a bit. Let's go back to comments here. Snow here in Michigan. They closed school. Dennis, what's up? I saw you sneak in. Yeah, they called school off here too. I'm delivering in Berlin, New Jersey right now, and I have to run over to the Port of Newark for my reload. It's going to be sporty down here in a couple hours. Yep. Trying to get the hell out of Dodge. Yeah, you're going to want to stay below 40 there, Shannon, if you can. But understand the rates are going to suck too. So, but I'm sure you're aware of that. Storms in Georgia this morning. Yeah, they're a whole bunch of tornadic stuff going on down south too, the south end of this. Come up and enjoy the snow. And here's let me go back to the weather map here real quick. Something to be aware of, Shannon, because I know this is kind of got you on the edge here, but if you book something, go heavy because this is all wind alerts through here. So just it's the bottom part of this whole system that's affecting all of this. So I know that wind has affected you before, so just be aware of that. So awesome. Pulled into Fuel Island to clean my windows, and now truck decides to regen. Hey, Snorelord in chat says Fran. Do you pull out your truck out of the fuel line before you start your regen? Yeah, you should. Top of the morning drivers, coffee and donuts. Urban Network Trucking Podcast. Thanks for coming in. Typical Freightliner says Fran. I'm thinking the mega brokers may have lower availability of loads, and also I believe they're covering loads without using load boards. So yeah, back to our original conversation, one-sided conversation. All those emails that I've been getting, hey, we're trying to establish trucks and all that. Yeah, that's happened. Because I talked to a broker yesterday who's also a carrier, and he hates posting on load boards. Absolutely despises it. He'd rather just know the truck that's picking up, know it's going to be taken care of, and know that it's in good hands. And if you didn't establish those relationships for the last year, that's what's going to be moving right now. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that brokers have freight that never hits the load board. I've said this over and over. And they don't want it on the load board. It might be multi-stop. It might be special equipment. It might be a special situation that they have the contract to. They don't want every Joe Schmo pulling this stuff. And they would rather find their carriers in their network than have, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, calling them that could barely communicate. That's why it seems like almost 50% now of brokers are just like, email me, don't call. And they're judging you by your communication skills. I still get lots of emails with available loads. I know mine have slowed down. Pigtail, good morning. Keep on trucking. You better be running efficiently, right? I wouldn't do a truck note past 4. I agree with that. Tony, no wonder I'm sitting. My accountant says nothing more than a 3-year truck loan. Ideally, that's kind of what you want. Or to have, if you have a new truck, look, I'm not going to argue the advantages and disadvantages of new and used equipment. That's an echo chamber BS load of crap that I don't really get into because both have their positives and negatives. Okay, so that's irrelevant. What is relevant is whether you buy a new truck or a used truck. after 3 years, will you still be upside down? And if the answer is yes, that truck is too high. Because the pattern you want to be in is not to be upside down in your truck for as long as you possibly, or to get into that zone as quickly as possible. So if you buy an $80,000 truck, because who knows what it's going to be worth in 3 years. I know people that spent $80,000 or got a loan for $80,000 for a truck that's got 600, 700,000 miles. So after 2 years, you're still upside down, and you want to refinance. There ain't a bank that's going to touch you. I don't care what your credit is. Not without jacking the price up on the interest rate. Now, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, then let me know. But in my experience, if you go to trade in the next truck, if you're the kind of person that trades your truck in every 3 years, you better pick a payment that's not upside down. And so Daryl Worth, your accountant, is correct on that. And that's kind of like my first truck was a 3-year note. It was a loan for I think it came out to 59, and it was a Peterbilt with 550,000 miles on it. Now, it was considerably cheaper than the Freightliner. Freightliners at that time had the best fuel mileage, and fuel was kind of a little bit on the upswing there. So these trucks, Peterbilt, it was a 387. Internationals, they were about 10 grand less. They were about, well, maybe not 10 grand. It was about 10 to 15% less than what the Freightliners were going for the same mileage. So one of the other reasons why I didn't get into a Freightliner for my first truck. Meanwhile, Freightliner here in Springfield wanted to give me a loan for a brand new truck. They said, we can extend this out to 7 years. My spidey sense was like, don't do it. So I was like, nah, I'm good, thanks. And I'm so glad I didn't do that. I'd still be paying on that truck to this day. And one of the advantages of having a paid off truck like I have is that if it ever comes time to cash out, well, then you're going to get all of that. Versus trying to, okay, if I sell my truck for 50 grand and I owe 40 grand, then I'll have 10,000 in my pocket. So how long are you going to, and Jeffrey Like taught me that lesson. He's the one that said, hey, look, how long are you going to be upside down in that truck? And I have another friend of mine that was upside down in a truck when he traded in for a new truck. And that took him out. That was one of the things that took him out. And then I know other people that went and bought high-priced equipment this past year. Ridiculous prices. And when it came time to refinance, to adjust, they wouldn't touch. Not without wanting to charge 20% interest. So you got to be smart with all of this. And so a 5-year note on a trailer wasn't too bad because I had intention to pay it off early. Just like I paid the truck off early. And so you got to look at your loans. Some loans don't want you to pay off early. They fine you. They'll charge you an extra $1,500 if you pay it off early because they want their money. Or, the interest rate is there. It's baked into it, so there's no way out of it, whether you pay it off early or not. So sometimes it's disadvantage. It's a disadvantage to pay it off early. But like my truck, I called my loan person and said, hey, what would the payoff be right now? Is there a fee? And then she said, no, your payoff would be X amount. And I was like, wow, that'll save me $1,500. So I paid it off several months early. The trailer, I can go online and look at those numbers, but I'd have to look over my contract to make sure that there's no fee, and I believe there might be. So, which is why the trailer payment's no big deal. I got a good trailer at a good price at a good time, and that was what I consider. Okay, even if, and this is when I first joined the spot market. When I bought that trailer, I didn't intend to buy a new trailer, but I'm so glad I did. That was a happy accident. And I looked at the monthly payment and I realized that if I completely hate the spot market, I could easily go back to Schneider and the trailer can sit and I could still afford the payments. But I would have to be really bad at the spot market to even have to go to that. And that's how I considered it. So you have to look ahead. You have to look, this market constantly changes. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it sucks. Common sense. Simplicity. Gee, Steve, thank you, Captain Obvious. But at the same time, a lot of people just don't realize that. So when you make a 5, 6, 7-year loan and you could barely afford those payments, why would you do that to yourself? That's going to take your happiness. That's going to take your health. That's going to put strain on your relationships. And for what? For what? Do you truly have freedom if you're paying $3 to $4 a month for 7 years? Does that sound like freedom to you? The freedom of being an owner operator? Don't sound like freedom to me. Because guess what? Most warranties for new trucks run out after 4 or 5 years. Then you got to pay $10,000 to get the extended warranty. And you better do it before the regular warranty's up, or else they're going to charge you for a dyno, for all the tests, and it's got to pass all these elaborate tests. And if you're a hard runner, man, that truck's beat up after 5 years when those warranties expire. Why do you think the mega carriers get rid of them at that time? They don't want to deal with it. That's your problem, not mine. So these are things that you have to consider. And the platform that you're going to put that truck on is to be considered as well. There are some platforms that would easily support that. But you always have to go with, if the crap hits the fan, what can I do? And that's the plan I made when I bought my trailer. I can afford $625 a month, no problem. And I have. I haven't run a load in months. Pneumatic Brick, good morning. Steve, as an experiment, reply to some of those broker available load emails asking if any loads are still available. If anything, it shows the broker you read the email. Engaging is key. I do that. I do reply them. I at least say, I don't have any trucks at this time. Thanks for reaching out. And then if later on during the day, I'll email them back. Hey, are these still available? Is this still available? And like one of my main brokers of two of the main areas, they'll send me a list of like 10 loads. And then when I finally make a decision to do one of them, or I'll just call her and say, okay, what's still left on your list? I could probably cover something. Since Jeff is the only one that endorses new trucks over high repairs, I'm only talking to him at Matt's. Don't feel slighted if I act like I don't know you. Just kidding. Oh. Schools canceled in all of Missouri. Pigtail. Come on, school's out for summer. That video was extremely valuable for my operation. Thank you. Good deal. I love it when I can help somebody out. The overall cost of ownership over the lifetime that you're going to use it is the only concern, although there's no way to know this ahead of time, therefore it does not matter. You're late, Don. Don't be upside down in your truck. Keep the rubber side down. I wonder all these people that bought new trucks with long notes and how that will affect truck prices in the future if they fail. Time can only tell. The cost of equipment ebbs and flows with the trucking industry with some delay. All points, all things point to cheaper equipment in the coming year. I agree with that. You just bought for dirt cheap. Yeah, I've not been keeping up with you, Stuart, so I'll have to go back and see what you're doing now. Stuart, banks are having problems like that right now with cars. They're rolling them through the auction because they cannot get the money that they have in them. How much of a difference would the fuel economy be between a Peterbilt 579 with a Cummins versus a Freightliner with the Detroit? It depends on how new that 579 is. I know that several people that have those new Cummins 579 or the T680s are getting 8 and 9 on the 23s. So that just depends. You know, a 2019 Cascadia is not going to get as good fuel mileage as a 23 Cascadia. So that's also something to be aware of. It also depends on the gearing as well. It's a nice feeling to have paid off equipment, but money has a time weight value. Depending on your interest rate, I'd make the payments. Let's see. If your credit union is offering 5% APR and inflation to 15%, I make the payments. Don't be a slave to the truck, right? Depreciation ends after 3 years. That's something else to take into consideration. The money that is now income, which means more taxes plus a truck payment. Freedom is not a title. Overall cost is the main concern. It's always cost to you to run. Clydesdale, good morning. From Caldwell, Idaho, Leonard's Express orientation. Day 3 in 2 hours. Well, good luck. Hope it works out. We're all slaves, Stuart. Let's see. Good luck. I heard that was a great carrier. All right. So now we're having a slave thing. So that probably just made my video yellow, mentioning the word slave. So look, it's what's it worth to you, right? You know, Jeff said something in his video last night. You know, he's promoting Like Trucking, which we are hiring. We have a couple empty trailers. Go to liketrucking.com. Hit the application. If you got a truck, we can supply the trailer. And he expresses the amount of freedom that drivers have over here. And freedom comes with a cost. Not everybody can handle the responsibility of freedom as we're demonstrating in our country. You know, I talked to a guy that was interested in my services, and he's not from here. He was from out of the country. And we started, you know, because I said, "What's your accent?" So he told me, and we're talking about that. And you know, I said, "So let me ask you a question. The things that our country, our truck drivers here in America gripe about, what do you see coming from outside looking in?" He's like, "Americans don't realize how good they have it." And he also said, "You're fixing to lose it if you're not careful." But that's a different discussion for a different day, for a different channel. Assume both are new and only differences in manufacturer and engine. I'm thinking at that point it's more personal preference. It is. It is. One takes chrome better. I don't know. These new Peterbilt and 680s, man, they're just as. Now 379, you know, that's a different story. Lots of chrome on those, but you can't get too crazy. Sorry, I'm looking at this. Rough start to 2023 for dry bulk, tanker, gas, container shipping. So that was Freight Waves. Look, the most difficult part of this time of year is staying focused. Focused on the goal. So and so this is Van. Let's do reefer here. Oh, another yellow check mark. All right. Be very aware of where you're going in and have a strategy for coming out. Even if it's I'm deadheading out, make sure you do the math on that. Now, I don't recommend long deadheads out if you can help it, but sometimes you don't have a choice because there's just absolutely nothing. And it's hard to stomach putting 45.5 in the trailer for $1.10 a mile. If your fuel's like 80 cents a mile, you're really not gaining a whole lot. You're gaining some, but not a whole lot. So, it just depends on what the profit margin was on the previous load. Or you could have 4 loads that were home runs. And then at that point, when you do with all miles, then you could deadhead home. But even then, I try to grab something, make sure it's light, easy to do. That's where knowing your customers comes in. These are all different strategies. What works for me may not work for you. Mr. Charles, if you've ever traveled outside of the USA, your eyes could be open. We take a lot for granted. I have been saying that since my military traveling days. Yeah, any of the military people or people that travel, I've got a friend of mine who, after the military, he contracts out. He's a contractor out in the Middle East, um, running equipment, mechanics, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's I the only time I've been in Canada a couple of times. I've been in Mexico a couple of times. That's it. I've never been. I've been off the mainland to go to Hawaii. That's it. I've never been to Europe. I've never been to the Caribbean. I've never been to Middle East or the Orient. I haven't been in any of those areas. I would love to someday, but as I'm getting older, I'm kind of losing hope for that. So, as expensive as everything's being, and it just, you know, I've seen the country, and there are things that I wish to take my wife and kids to see. You know, I want to take her to Montana. I want to, she hasn't even been up northeast. I want to take her. She's into history, and I would love to take her up to a lot of the historical sites up in the northeast, and let her see parts of where I grew up. So, chrome is overrated, in my opinion. I'd rather have a well-oiled machine that gets great fuel mileage. My deadhead for the week is less than 100 miles total, but my total rate per mile is probably around 240 a mile. Lots of miles, though. That's a good deadhead ratio, and I keep track of that with the trucks I dispatch in my own. It's like, okay, what's my deadhead on this? And when you can land, a low percentage of deadhead, that helps, especially with the fuel prices. Even the majors like Power, even the majors like Power and running clean water. Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem. All right. So that's reefer. Let's look at flatbed and step deck. You know what? Let's stay on reefer for a minute. I want to look at something. So let's look at California. Sanger, California to Danville, Illinois. They're above the average, but look how many stops you got. My guess is these are pickups, and then Morton, Illinois, Urbana, Illinois, and Danville, Illinois. So picks up on the 25th, picks up tomorrow, or no, today, and then delivers on the 30th, which is Monday. So you're not even at $1,000 a day. It's produce, and you're dealing with all of this. And then what's the time between Guadalupe and Morton, Illinois? Do you have enough time for that? So this load could potentially give you a lot of problems for a lot of headache, but it's going to a good area. It's been as low as, well, average is $1.83. It's been low as 84, which, that's kind of, that might have been a partial, who knows. And then the high is 322. There's no way. Let me rephrase that. I was about to say there's no way that someone hauled produce out of California for 84 cents a mile, but in this day and age, you never know. I would never haul produce for 84 cents a mile out of California. Not when fuel is about 80 cents a mile anyways. That ain't gonna work. Alan Lund. So here's the strategy as well. Alan Lund's got a load on the 31st, picks up. California goes to Oklahoma. Kansas City at alanlund.com. So it's a good email. And so, wow, that guy says Kansas City. So, wonder what else this guy has. So I would email him like, hey man, put me on your list. I work Kansas City all the time. That's what I would do. Take her in the truck, get paid to travel. We've talked about that. And I think she'd enjoy it the first, several days, but then after that, it just depends. I mean, it's hard to go sightseeing in a truck. I mean, it could be done, but a lot of Uber, a lot of phone calls, make sure that you can get the truck and trailer. Um, and then the time, right? So, take her to Colonial Williamsburg. Went there as a kid. It was awesome. Oh yeah, and I agree. I'm well aware of a lot of the stuff in the Northeast, but yeah, I mean, look, we've got a beautiful country, and I want her to see it. Maybe we'll just sell both the houses and grab Jeff's RV and just cruise the land, work from the RV. But I got to get my YouTube numbers up, so please contribute to the YouTube channel so I can make that happen. All right, guys, I've been on this too long. Just be aware of what's going on. Just be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the brokers that you're calling. A lot of Gmail addresses, a lot of 60, 80, 90 days to pay are happening right now. Some of that's because of the broker, some of that's because of the shippers. A lot of people are having to tighten the belt right now, and you should not be. You should be no different. Can you still make money in the spot market? Absolutely. But you got to be smart, you got to be good, and you got to be able to handle that freedom if it's given to you. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys don't mind, hit the thumbs up, hit the like. You can contribute to the channel if you like what you see. And then if you're interested in the 123 low board, go to the website there and do 48065. And that will give you 30 days for free, and then 35 bucks a month after that. And you don't even need an MC number to have an account. So with that being said, thanks for, wrong one. Man, I'm dumb. Okay. Here we go. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Peace.